Hey guys, Logo73 back for our second video on network mapping. What I wanted to start with at the beginning of this video was some basic subnetting, the three local networks that are used, and some subnetting. We have to kind of make some decisions before we start laying out that map. And so what I've done is just opened up Google here, and I'm going to type PDF subnetting cheat sheet. Oop, forgot the space. You'll probably find it here for me. Actually, it was right there. So this right here is something I use on my live network, and so I'm going to open this up and actually click open there. And this is a PDF I have saved. I refer back to it for the CIDR notation. I use this on my firewall a lot, and I don't have this memorized, so it's something that I have to come back and look at quite often. But down here in the bottom right hand corner, it has the local reserved ranges for local IP addresses. So you have the public network, and you'll get an IP address from your ISP for that. But then on your local network, so inside your firewall, you usually have some ranges that you use. So you might see a 10.1 dot something address at your employment or wherever you're working with your network, and that's very common for like a business to use this 10.1 dot something range. The second range, and I've actually never seen this one, it's usually for a smaller business. They might use this range, but I've actually never seen it in production. And then for your home network, you see this a lot. A lot of routers are come default at 192.168.1.1, and so you'll see this range in smaller environments. And when I first started at our school, that's actually what they were using, probably because they didn't know any better. And then they were using this subnet mask, and you've probably seen this before. 255, 255, 255.0. And so what that is basically it assigns how many addresses that you can have in your network. And so when I started, we just had a few computers and not a big deal, but we went 1-to-1 with laptops, with all of our students having their own laptop, and we started running out of IP addresses, or DHCP wouldn't assign them an address. And so what we did was we hit the max ranges. I had to go back in and figure out what was wrong and change it to a bigger class. So this right here is what's actually called Class C subnet. And so you see the number of IP addresses, and that was our problem. The one that I stepped up to was this right here. It's a Class B subnet. And so it obviously opened up the number of addresses that I had in my network. And then if you go into a very large corporation, you're probably going to be running a Class A subnet mask, and the number of users right there. So those are the three typical ones that are used for subnet masks. In a business environment, the local network, you're going to usually be using a 10.1 dot something address. So those are some things that we need to consider as we start to set up a subnet or a mapping for our network. And so I wanted to show you that real quick. So as I set up, you understand a little bit of what I'm talking about. We might go into that a little later in a different video, a little more in depth, but there's the beginning steps for our mapping. So what is a mapping? What are you trying to do here? Well, I am going to show you this program called KeyPass. And what KeyPass is a place to record all of your passwords. But I use it for a little bit more than that. But let me go ahead and open the site and show you how to, or where to download it. So it's simply keypass.info /download, and you can come to this web page, and I usually use this portable classic version and download it from SourceForge. Now I have downloaded this many times and never had a virus, but I always do it on, again, a PC or laptop. That way, if the virus does come with it, it's not on a server. So you never want to download on your server. So I've already downloaded this, and so I'm going to close that. And it comes as a zip file, and so I'm going to right click and extract all, and just extract it right here, and it opens up that folder. I'm going to close that. So it created two folders. This is the zip file, and here's my extracted one. And so I'm going to open up KeyPass and run, and it wants to know if it wants to check for automatic updates. It's not going to install them, but I'll enable it by default. And so when it opens, I've already ran this one time. When it opens, it usually opens with this menu. And since I've ran it before, it didn't open it. But what's happening here is, as an admin, you're going to have a master password that you set on all of your servers. Your administrator password, when we get to that, for your domain controller, you're going to set the built-in password. And I would have this be the same password for that. You could make them different, but I set it as the same one. For this test lab, I'm just going to set our admin password as password original. I think I might have messed that up. No, I did it right. Okay, so I have my master password that will open this file. I can also create a key file, and I'm going to go ahead and click that. And what the key file is, this program is running on the D drive, which is my data drive. I just have the file saved there. And I can create a key file that can be on a different hard drive. And so for this one, I'm going to put it on the C drive. And what's going to happen here is, if for some reason the two drives get separated or they can't communicate, you can't open this file. And so all of your passwords are safe, because you not only have to have the master password, but you also have to have the key file. But there is a problem with that. If you accidentally delete the key file, or someone comes in and deletes the key file, then you won't be able to open this file. So it's important to make sure you manage that. But it is an added level of security. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then it's going to want me to use that password to sign in. So it's the master password that I entered. And it's going to open it. I did this as a test. So it's asking if I want to rewrite or overwrite that. I'm just going to overwrite it. And then it wants us to do some random data for the key generation for that master password. And so oops, I got to click that first. And what it wants me to do is just click around in this space to create some random data until this is full. And then you can click OK. Alright, so we're in for the first time. By default, it comes up with these headings over here. I'm actually going to delete all of these but the network one. And I'm going to build everything underneath that network heading. Group. Okay, so I'm going to right click and go to add subnet, and the first thing that I'm going to put in here is basically I'm going to start creating some different groups that I use for hardware on my network. So the first one I'm just going to put in is switches, and you can click a icon. I'm going to just click one at random and click OK, and that created a subgroup of switches. The next one I'm going to do is let's do servers. So I'm basically starting to build the infrastructure of my network. Click a random icon, and the next one I might add a subgroup. Maybe I have a wireless network in my environment, and so I've got some access points. So I'll create that. And maybe I have some printers. And that one, I guess. And click this. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is start to add some devices in here. And so under switches, I am going to click on switches and then come up here and add entry. And so this is where you start to build your information. And so say we were talking about our local network there with the PDF file just a minute ago. And so say our first hardware piece that we're going to put on here, we're going to assign to an IP address of 10.1. Let's just do 100.1. And we are going to Actually, I want that down here. Sorry, that's my fault. .100.1, and I'm going to make this my firewall. And so to get into that firewall, say I'm just making this up because I don't have a firewall in this network, but my firewall, my username to get in is admin, and it's creating a random password here, which I can open up and see, or I can type in my own password, and I'm going to make that just password. Let's capitalize it. And it wants me to repeat it. Oop, didn't want that one. I want to see it. There we go. Okay, so if someone's looking over your shoulder, you can hide the password, or you can, I never open this file if someone's looking over my shoulder, so I keep it open actually. And you might have some notes, so you might put in, say, the MAC address is, and record it. And I do this on all my switches, so your hexadecimal might go there. And you can just add information in here, but basically what it's going to do is create this entry for switches, and the first one being my firewall. And say the second one I do, I'm going to make this my rack switch. So I have a rack that all my servers sit in. It's basically the first switch in the system other than after my firewall. So it goes from my firewall to my rack and then to my servers. So my rack switch, and I'm going to assign it a 10.1.100.2. So I make it I give it a static IP address later in my DHCP server and reserve that address. And since this is another hardware piece, I would use, actually in my environment, all of my hardware have a specific password other than my admin password. So this password is very rarely used. It's only for hardware setup. But right now I'm just using the same one for everything. So password and password. And again, I would, in my environment, I would put in the MAC address so I don't have to get a flashlight and try to crawl around behind stuff and figure out what MAC addresses are if I need it. So I go ahead and record that here. To get into that switch, whatever the username is. And so I save that. And so I'm starting to build out my IP addresses for all of the switches in my environment, and I would do the same thing with the servers, same thing for the access points, and the same thing for printers. And so again, the reason I do this is, first of all, I don't have to memorize a whole bunch of passwords. I could have a different password for every machine. I can use KeyPass to generate random passwords if I want. I don't do that in my environment. But the big thing is to be able to hand the keys to someone else and say, okay, this is how you get around in our network. Here's where everything's laid out. Here's all the IP addresses, the usernames, passwords. The system's now yours to be able to pass this on. So this is an important piece, not only for that, but also to just basically keep your IP scheme, I guess, organized. So you aren't, your servers aren't in 10.1.100.43, and right next to that you have a printer. It just kind of keeps everything nice and organized. So this is how I do my mapping. This is what I use to do this in my environment, and I hope it is a good idea for you. The next video that we're going to cover is actually installing Server 2016 on a Hyper-V machine. Cover the installation and what I do to basically copy those virtual hard disks to be able to reuse that hard disk for another machine to build a whole nother server without having to install it and do all the updates. So Hyper-V is the way to go on that. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you in video number 3.